Welcome back to NETGEAR's SMB Insider Webinar Series. My name is Rachel, and I'm your host. Today we want to talk about our Smart Manage Pro bestsellers. Learn how we upgraded your favorite switches with new exciting features. Presenting our topic today is Laurent Mazia, who is our Senior Product Line Manager for Managed Switches at NETGEAR. As always, feel free to ask questions, and we'll be able to answer them during the presentation and afterwards during the Q&A session. All right, let's get started.
Thank you, Rachel, for having me. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. This is Laurent. Let's go over this GS728 TP, TPP, and GS752 TP V2s, so new versions of bestsellers, really. Those smart switches sell out through the world, and we have upgraded them. So that's a good occasion for us to go over that transition with you, and we're going to profit from that occasion to introduce the GS752 TPP brand new members of that Smart Manage Pro Switch family. So without further ado, let's start with the NETGEAR Business signature. As you know, at NETGEAR, we have home and consumer grade equipment through e-com and channel retail. We have service provider, another business unit, and NETGEAR Business is the third business unit at NETGEAR. We really focus on the 5 to 500 seats SMB companies, and we do only that with innovation, choice, and expertise. So today, this is the NETGEAR SMB business team hosting that webinar. And you know, that's about 18 years that we innovate at NETGEAR. We really strive to bring new technologies down from enterprise or data centers to the SMB with the affordable technologies. And if you look at the last couple years, we got a lot of new introductions. It's really about 1 gig, 10 gig PoE modular switches. But well, today we are going to go back to the roots with very affordable, powerful, all-round PoE Smart Manage Pro switches. So our goal, as I said, is to provide enterprise class products, but for the SMBs at the right price. And let me take you through this quick overview before we jump onto that switching topic. If you did not have a look yet about the Smart Cloud Insight NETGEAR new solution, you should really, that's the top left here, go in emergency mode to insight.netgear.com to discover a real revolution. So the Smart Cloud Insight solution covers switching, wireless, and storage. It's a cloud portal. It's also an app on Android and iPhones. So instead of manipulating products or stacks, you manipulate networks. You create VLANs across a site or location all at once. So that's another method for SMB networking, and that's the latest and greatest from NETGEAR. Insight Smart Cloud Solutions. From a switching standpoint, we are going to cover PoE today. You know that we have a wealth, a lot of switches throughout the portfolio, from desktop to rack mount with very innovative form factors. We do fast Ethernet, 1 gig, multi-gig, all the way up to 10 gig and 40 gig with the fully managed solutions. From a Wi-Fi standpoint, after the Insight Smart Cloud solution, if you don't know about those two blue and light blue gray boxes that you have in the third column called Orbi Pro, you should really also in emergency mode go and find about the new NETGEAR Orbi Pro, another revolutionary solution for a tri-band mesh system with fantastic performance and great ease of use with the latest AC technologies. Last but not the least, in this SMB group, NETGEAR is proud with high-end retina storage, and we have renewed a portfolio across the board from desktop 1 gig, 10 gig versions all the way up to modular rack mount versions. So Let's go to the switch portfolio. As you may know, we have a lot of switches. Our switches are ranging from unmanaged all the way up to the fully managed solutions, 5 families. In between unmanaged and fully managed, you will find smart managed plus switches with a very reasonable pricing over the unmanaged and essential layer 2 feature set, and then smart managed pro switches with web management, but much more switch inside. So that's what we are going to review right now. After that, in this order, you have the inside smart cloud new solutions just before the big machines. As a last introduction slide, I want everybody to be very comfortable with those three essential differences. I mean, how you want to recognize that NETGEAR is different from everybody else in that market. Well, it's because we only focus on reliability, pricing, affordability, and ease of use. And that's not marketing fluff, actually. That's real. That's for real. See the first one about limited lifetime warranty. Why is that limited? Well, because at NETGEAR, we limit it to the first buyer. But after that, there's no limit to the NETGEAR lifetime warranty. And that's really unique because everywhere else, Cisco or HP or anybody else, the lifetime warranty, when you got one, will stop after the product EUL, right? When the product is obsolete, so is the lifetime warranty. It's not the case that NETGEAR. We strive to use very high-end componentry so that you can sustain really in 25 years from now a product replacement with next business day because of a real lifetime. Pricing, well, if NETGEAR is not well priced, that would not be such a good position in the SMB market. So we really strive to drive costs down, and that's how we work. And you will see that new wealth of PoE smart managed switches, they bring a lot more switch, but for much less. Last but not the use, the web interface really participates in that ease of use because these switches got to be managed, installed, configured, and maintained later on by non-specialists. And that's how we do. Networking techniques are complex, but the way we present that in a easy to get, easy to manage web interface is how we can actually simplify the network administration. So reliability, affordability, and ease of use. That's really important. So why did we entirely renew our PoE smart managed switches bestsellers from scratch, from the white page? Well, because we knew that our SMB customers today, you have a lot of challenges, and one of them is the PoE power over Ethernet proliferation, namely, with the access points, with the IP telephony, cameras, Internet of Things, a new class of devices. I mean, everything now needs PoE. And because you have so many more devices, you get more choice in terms of PoE budget and PoE port count. And when we look at this competitive landscape for the smart switches and the smart managed platforms across the market, NETGEAR is #1 by far, but everybody else is kind of reducing the portfolio moving forward. So you have less and less choice at HP and Cisco. We wanted to revert back to a large portfolio to give you 190, 360, or even 760 watts of available power budget across all platforms from 24 to 48 ports. So that, if you don't have much needs, you can go for a cost-effective platform. But should you want to buy for, the future, for the long term, if you want to get more headroom, you will find a high power, high port count new switch at NETGEAR. Advanced features are obviously important, maybe a little bit less important because a few of us, a few less customers might need them all. But you need to know that moving forward, these advanced smart switches really compare with the entirely managed, fully managed solution. They keep adding some capabilities, and you will see that these new ones come with a lot. So for any kind of network access, security, or quality of service, or multicasting, these switches are featured. We'll review that. PoE schedule is not unique to this class of smart managed switches. We managed to have a PoE schedule pretty much across the portfolio, but that's very important to be able to turn off and turn on PoE on ports. That's the way you can control your, for instance, wireless access points or other PD devices. So let's see, we'll talk a little bit about AV over IP. You know, that's a brand new thing nowadays. A lot of Pro AV transport solutions are coming to IP. You have those AV over IP equipment to carry video over Ethernet. And obviously, it's all about multicast for us. Network guys, it's easy, robust, reliable, and those switches are perfect for that. Here we go. I'm happy to introduce the Gigabit PoE Plus new Smart Managed Pro family. So as a quick summary, I want to tell you about noise, because a lot of end users, especially when you have no IT room or when your IDF is close to the superintendent office in a K-12 school, noise is very important. So we managed to dramatically reduce that. Those new switches are quieter. We have PoE Plus now as a standard across all ports, and we got the highest PoE budget. New GUI, you'll see that real live. I hope we'll have some time at the end of the session to get a hands-on and, you know, visit that web interface together. A lot more security, and all that for a very good price. So without further ado, GS728 TPV2, GS728 TPPV2, the higher power version. Same with the GS752 TPV2, a 48 port, and the high new power version GS752 TPP are coming with all ports PoE Plus and a very robust feature set. So what happens? Well, in the middle of that screen, you see the previous V1s, green ones that you obviously know because they are everywhere. Those three GS728 TPP and GS752 TP are leading the Smart Managed Pro switch market worldwide, but especially in the United States. We got to renew them to provide more switch, more power, more features, and we are now launching those V2 versions. So those new V2s will actually replace the V1s, and I'm going to explain that to you. The GS752 TP is brand new. We just didn't have a high power version before. And let me tell you how this portfolio now is going to be organized. So what's new? Well, you have a V2 on the product name. You have a new 5.2 TPP. The main differences are about PoE Plus. In the past, so far, we got only a few PoE Plus ports, and the rest of the copper ports were PoE 802.3AF, right? So now across the board from port 1 to port 24 or port 48 on the 48 port versions, you got PoE Plus as standard. IPv6 routing is a new addition. So far, those switches were only IPv4 in terms of static routes. So even if IPv6 is not mainstream as of yet, we're covered for the future should IPv6 come inside LANs. Those switches divided almost by 2 the noise, so that's great. They are much quieter, and we paid a lot of attention to security so that we get covered as well in terms of network attacks against hackers. And I will talk a little bit about dynamic ARP inspection. Well, we said that video over IP was another big new thing for networks moving forward. A lot of networks will have to carry videos because that's the way professional AV market is going to transition to IP. Everything transitions to IP. IP always wins. So our switches got to be prepared for that. And how do you prepare for video over IP? Well, it's all about multicast. Those switches know for a long time how to do robust multicast. But if you have VLANs, what you should have, by the way, then multicast VLAN registration is, very elegant, because instead of complex layer 3 multicast routing, well, you just stay at layer 2 with a dedicated multicast VLAN so that all your video TX and RX and encoders and decoders get there. So your video equipment is in that multicast VLAN, and your receivers, your clients who want to get those videos can be in any other VLANs across your switches and be served by the IGMP snooping and querying thanks to that MVR feature. Very easy and very professional. So let's now review the solutions we have now at NETGEAR in this Smart Managed Pro switch portfolio. What do we get, right? Because we have a lot of PoE switches, but see the four new ones: GS728, TPP, TP, TPP, GS752, TP, TPP. This is a family with a unified software, 24s and 48s. They have a increasing power budget from 190 watts to 760. By the way, 760 watts across 48 ports of PoE Plus is not only a world first, because in the market we didn't have any switch, smart managed switch like that, but also that's a great full provisioning 802.3 AF, so that's really 15.4 watts per port against across 48 ports, which is really great for high power hungry devices, right? So those four switches, as you can see, have static routing. So it's both IPv4 and IPv6, and a lot of advanced features, including security with dynamic ARP, with advanced multicasting with VLAN registration, and with private VLANs for even further VLAN isolation, so that on top of your layer 2 VLAN architecture, you can actually define rules easily so that some ports just can't speak to anybody else when some other ports can be in common. So a strong feature set. And now it will compare to the GS724 TPV2. So obviously GS724 TPV2 is even more cost effective. That GS724 TPV2 was launched 6 months ago. It's brand new. It's selling extremely well because that's the lowest price 24 port PoE plus in the market. But well, in terms of feature set, that's not the same because it's a layer 2 switch. So that's a very basic, essential feature set with all layer 2 features, no routing, but no advanced features such as ARP inspection, multicast VLAN installation, or private VLAN. So that's how we are going to just differentiate. If I have a very simple application at the layer 2 only, GS724 TPV2 will probably be the best way to go. The new ones are going to be well more featured for more security and more control over the network. On the far right-hand side, you see the 3300s. Those are different animals because 3300s are higher end, stackable smart managed switches with 10 gig uplinks. So you can build stacks. And the GS752 TXP is one example. We have the GS728 TXP, so 2448 in that category, but that's another category because you've got 10 gig uplinks for faster network aggregation, and you have 10 gig stacking for unifying a group of switches into a stack. So at the end of the day, this is moving forward the new NETGEAR Smart Managed Pro PUE portfolio, 4 new products at the center of the portfolio with very advanced features, with the layer 2 alternative for the 24 ports at a stunning $299 street price and a higher end 3300s for stackables. So there is a very important piece of information for that transition, because you need to know how the GS728 TP, TPP, and the GS752 TPV1s are really going to transition, when, how, and at what price. So this information comes from the product transition notification. In our language, it's called PTN. So the product transition notification is a very instrumental customer-facing document, okay, so that you show this information with the milestone. For now, for instance, you see that, well, we don't want to immediately stop the production and the sale for the V1s. Absolutely not. We want to actually EOL, just enter the EOL stage for the V1s in September of this year, so that you get ample time to go through validations and actually to find reasons to go V2s. And the end of sale for the V1, so the time based on current run rates, when we think that there will be no more V1 available across distribution, will be in 3 quarters from now, at the end of Q1 of next year. Okay, so what we want to do is actually really slowly, quietly ramp the V2s and propose this alternative. But again, there is no risk of abrupt end of sale on the V1s. So this product transition notification is not a public document that is, like a data sheet hooked to the NETGEAR website. If you want to get your hands on the PTN, please urgently get to your NETGEAR account manager, to the NETGEAR sales team. That's a very important piece of information. Well, let me tell you now why. Because after the first page with the summary, you have approximately 10 other pages with a long list of features. So I'm just showing the first page, okay, for the sake of that webinar today. But you have the comprehensive, exact, detailed feature set comparison between the V1s and the V2s, because you deserve it. Okay, so a red cross means that the feature is not available. A new green V sign means that the feature is new and available. Okay, so you will see a lot of red crosses on the left for the V1s, and you'll see a lot of new features on the right with the V2s. So that's another good piece of information should you have any customers skeptical about the traceability. We got this, and we have the entire feature set explained in the product transition notification. So let's go over the hardware. 4 switches. Again, this is a unified family, so that's a good high-end silicon, and we have 2 platforms mainly, 24 and 48 port platform. And the difference between the models after that is the power supply delivering, from 190 watt to 300, from 300 to 760 watts on the 48 ports. So that's a lot of choice. Again, if you don't have much power needs, the standard 190 watt across 24 ports, it's actually 7 watts in average per port, or 300 watts across 48 ports, same ratio will be good enough. But if you have more needs, 300 watts across 24 ports, it's really 15.4 watts per port across 24 ports, or more PUE plus, for instance, on half the switch. Same, even larger scale with the 760 watt world first GS752 TPP. Back in the last slide, we actually had the overview about noise. Let me actually go back there because it's very important. Noise has been reduced. The example here is that with the GS728 TPV2, 27 dB maximum, even with full traffic, full PV power across all ports at 25 degrees Celsius, 75 degrees Fahrenheit. This is extremely low. This is whisper quiet. So we strived to use bigger fans that, you know, with a lower rotation so that you have actually less noise. So very important. Big PSUs, but very nice fans with intelligent sensors, lowering the noise across the board for the 4 models. From a software standpoint, there's a lot in these switches, way more than in the V1s. This is a layer 2 switch with a light layer 3 platform. You have a static routing across the board for IPv4 and IPv6, but not only that, IPv4, IPv6 double stack is supported for ACLs, for quality of service and diff-serve policies, and also from a multicast standpoint, at layer 2 for IGMP, IPv4, and MLD querying and snooping for IPv6. Okay, auto VoIP is obviously there. That's, you know, the easiest prioritization for voice over IP. When you have a voice VLAN with auto VoIP on it, you're good to go across the switch without much to do. And auto video is another new mode for automatic video VLAN based on multicast. Okay, so software, hardware, and then performance. Well, those switches are line rate, non-blocking, so 56 gig and 104 gigabit per second of switching fabric. Why? Well, because we have 24 and 48 port copper, and we have 4 dedicated fiber uplinks. So the port number, for instance, 49, 50, 51, 52 on that 48 port box are dedicated. So you need to have a 56 gigabit per second of fabric to sustain 52 ports. Sorry, you need to have 104 gig per second of fabric to sustain 52 ports gigabit line rate. Okay, the table size is actually similar with the V1s, so overall constants are consistent. Okay, so what about competition? Well, you know, we could have a lot of slides detailing the Cisco small business 200 or 220 series, detailing the HP 1920 and 1920S series and other D-Links or Zyxor platforms. But instead, let's go over the summary, because at the end of the day, that's not a SKU to SKU comparison that is, you know, making sense. That's the overall differentiation. So I'm happy to let you know that across the board, if you take all these data sheets, all these products on the market, the GS728TP, TPP, and 52 TPP V2, and the GS752TP are by far the lowest, the quietest switches out there. So we lowered the acoustic noise so much that they are actually much quieter than any competitive solution. Also, from a PWE budget standpoint, we have a lot of PWE budget. Well, we have an advantage. Those V2s are brand new, but scaling up to the 760 watts across 48 ports, that's a lot of headroom, I can tell you. A lot of headroom if you want to buy these pieces of infrastructure for the long term. In terms of security, well, dynamic ARP inspection with DHCP snooping is very efficient against man-in-the-middle attacks, because the DHCP snooping will actually control DHCP servers and clients, and the dynamic ARP inspection is going to prevent somebody else from stealing an IP address with a different MAC address. So from a network invasion, from a network threat standpoint, those 4 switches with snooping for DHCP and ARP inspection are fully featured, much more featured than any other smart switch on the market. IPv6 is a good stamp as well, and layer 3 static routing sometimes is available at HP, but it's definitely not at Cisco 200 or 220 series. So that's another piece of a differentiation. So in a nutshell, those switches are quiet, really quiet. They have a lot of PoE power. They are fully featured in terms of security, in terms of routing, and in terms of IPv6 headroom. So now this is how these V2s, how these 4 new smart managed pro switches are going to be explained and propagated through the channel. They are widely available right now at your favorite distributors or resellers or online websites or DMRs in the United States. I will address your questions in maybe 5 minutes now from now, but because we reached the end of that overview, instead of, you know, another death by PowerPoint, let me bring up the web interface so that you can have a quick look. So for this presentation right now, I'm going to log onto a GS728 TPP. Okay, so that's a 24 port with 380 watts of PoE power. This is a little LAN for the sake of that preso, and the password out of the box, because that's a factory default switch, is a password. Let's log in. So at first glance, you will see that the overall GUI is super consistent with everything else at NETGEAR, from plus to smart to fully managed. That's how we simplify the administration overall, we know, for configuration, but also for maintenance. But these smart switches, now let me take you through a rapid overview. How does it work? Well, you have a system tab, that's the layer 1, that's where you want to review the management, the time, the DNSs. The device view is also a good one. You can actually really see the switch. And remember, I told you that's a new GUI. Why is that? Well, because so far the V1s used to require, you know, a Java applet. And well, it was deprecated in many browsers, so you got to install some weird adapters to make it work nowadays. So we got rid of any Java applets and in our new GUIs, and now we have a real HTML5 architecture that gives you that stunning device view, but you know, that's fully featured. I have only one port coming from my line over there, but right click on to that port, you see the port configuration and all of the shortcuts going to the statistics, going to the security, going to the access control, to the QoS. So that's the device view is not only a good aesthetics thing, but it's also a very efficient shortcut when you want directly to go and alter the port configuration. PoE is also under the system tab, and well, my switch got a 380 watts of PoE budget, that you know. But if you go to the advanced and if you go to the PoE port configuration, you can actually attach a schedule. So the schedule is great because later on you may want to say that, well, during that period of time, I want to have those periods with PoE and some other periods of time without PoE. So that's a little time management, like a database for your different schedules. And then you will find those entries back into the advanced section, so that port by port in the port configuration, you can attach, you can bind such a timer. Okay, very useful. From a all-round PoE, the power mode is entirely selectable, as well as the various limits in terms of wattage, should you have devices that are not announcing themselves correctly with their classes. Same for the detection, hardware detection, or IEEE LLDP detection. Okay, now after the layer 1, you have the layer 2. So layer 2 is for switching, layer 2 switching and forwarding. So the port table, obviously, is a very a simple one and powerful one. Let me tell you about link aggregation at NETGEAR. The lags, the trunks, the ether channel, the groups, you can call it the way you want. At the end, it's link aggregation group, either static or dynamic, are pre-provisioned. So we have on that 24 port switch platform, 16 of them that are ready to go, ready to configure. On the advanced configuration, you have some more details and quick shortcuts, but take one. You can actually choose now your, and that's new, you can choose your hashing algorithm. So instead of a pure layer 2 source and destination MAC address, which is kind of, embarrassing when you have a routed layer 3 network, because if you talk to a gateway, all packets will have the same destination MAC address. So that's why layer 3 and 4 hashing algorithm now is available on these latest generation of smart managed pro switches, so that you can have more efficiency, so that you can use actually multiple links with layer 2, layer 3, and layer 4 components for the hashing. So that's a good addition. VLANing, well, that's a classic, but in the VLAN configuration, you just have your VLAN database, and you can actually configure your tagging with the U's and T's in order to have, tagging or untagged operation at the port level. So VLAN is under the layer 2, obviously. Spanning tree, auto voice over IP, multicast is a good thing. The multicast table is, the list of multicast MAC addresses that was, recognized by the switch, and IGMP snooping is fully featured. IGMP querier is fully featured. Same for the IPv6 part. My little advice today is that when you consider IGMP snooping and IGMP querier, well, you have two main differences, two main ways. Instead of configuring that at the port level, you may want to configure IGMP snooping once for all across an entire VLAN. That's more efficient. It's less subject to mistakes, or you can forget some ports here and there. So don't be afraid. It's very proven. It's actually more elegant from a switch logical standpoint to enable IGMP snooping, enable fast leave, and then later on enable the querier across the VLAN. Querier, fast leave, and IGMP snooping across the entire VLAN. You're in a much better shape this way. We talked about multicast VLAN registration for your multicast VLAN and your multicast clients across other VLANs. And you have a beyond the spanning tree, which is sometimes a little bit complex. Well, you have a very good and robust layer 2 loop protection that you can enable, so that you have a automatic recovery on top of that, which is more difficult to achieve on spanning tree. So the layer 2 loop detection is available on these latest generation of smart switches. My advice is that just enable that across the board, across the entire switch, so that you get covered if somebody just creates a loop on that particular switch. Layer 2 switching, after that you have the layer 3 tab, right, for IP configuration. So by default, the switch is a layer 2 switch, but you just click here on routing mode enabled to just light on routing, which is magic. So from there, you can actually use the VLAN routing wizard if you want to, tag ports and all at the same time if you want to enable routing. But if you are old school, you can actually take your VLANs one by one, declare the IP routing interface for each of them, and enable routing from there. Then you have the routing table and the ARP information. That was a quick preview. COS and DiffServe are obviously, the next tab after layer 2, layer 3. You have the quality of service. So you will actually just tell the switch to look for the COS headers, or if you want to have a more advanced DSCP strategy with the policies and classes for DiffServe. Security is all about network access control, but also traffic control, and monitoring then is all those statistics that are available throughout the web interface for your convenience. Last but not the least, the maintenance tab is where we are going to reboot such a wonderful switch platform, but also export information out of the switch or download new information in the switch using the HTTP method is actually easier, right? And then you can actually download new firmware image when you have maintenance releases out of NETGEAR, or a configuration file. We call that text configuration. So I hope that this overview was helpful. Let's go back to our presentation right now. And I think that's time to go through the Q&A. So Rachel, let me know how you want to proceed.
Hello, Laurent. Well, now is time for our Q&A session. We actually have a question from Bill. He's asking, why are the uplinks 1 gigabit instead of 10 gigabit? I would think that both voice and video are likely to take up more bandwidth than just data, and they're also likely to be the most traffic to be on a PoE switch.
Oh yeah, Bill. So Bill, that's a good question. So you just make your point here. You have two, it's not the same platform. So the GS728TP and 752TP, the V1s are replaced by a greater platform with V2s with more power and less noise. You saw that, but still it's 24 ports of gig Ethernet and 48 ports of gigabit Ethernet. So there's still no 10 gig, you're right. And that's why we have on the other side of the portfolio other class of hardware based on other silicon with 10 gig uplinks. So you're right. But let me make my point. Voice over IP, you know, it's very tiny streams, right? So, you don't need 10 gig for voice. Actually, it's actually kbps measured. So even if you have 24, 48 IP phones, you will not get much of an oversubscription on your gigabit uplinks. But you're right, for other type of traffic, if you need to have less oversubscription at your uplinks, you got to have 10 gigabit uplinks. That's absolutely right. So usually larger companies with a lot of switches really require 10 gig backbones. Okay, for that reason, because out of 24 port 1 gig, you have potentially 24 gigabit per second of data going in and out of those 24 guys. So in that case, well, 2 port of 10 gig uplinks will bring you closer to the line rate, closer to the 1-to-1. But you know, for small organizations, when you have only 1 or 2 switches, when you don't need line rate, those 1 gigabit switches are much more cost effective. Did I tell you about pricing, by the way? $379 is the initial price point in the United States. Street price, $379 for 24 port of PoE. You just can't get that with 10 gig uplinks.
Thank you so much, Laurent. Hopefully that helped answer your question, Bill. Let us know if it doesn't. I'd be happy to follow up with you. And we have another question. Can I get product transition notification file with all the comparison details?
Oh, yeah, sure. So this PTN file, as I said, is not widely available to the public, close to the datasheet on the product page. So we'll make sure that all sales account managers just send it to you. So please request that PTN to your favorite NETGEAR sales account manager, and Rachel and I will make sure that that PTN is also posted throughout the PPT slide deck on the portal for your convenience as well.
Yes, I'll definitely link it in the follow-up email that we send out a little bit later today with the recording. Another question is, how does the pricing of these new switches compare to the pricing of the older switches?
Oh, that's a good one. So that's another proof, right? We didn't go over pricing actually. So $379 for the 24/728 TPV2. So $379. It's actually $20 less than the V1. And all other switches, the 28 TPP, $499, the 52 TPV2, $599. Street price MSRPs are identical to V1. So to answer the question, the V2s come at the same price or just under as for the GS728TP, but with more switch inside, more power, less noise, and more security.
All right, thank you for that, Laurent. And last questions. Can our customers expect any interoperability issues between the V1 and the V2s?
Oh, thank you. That one is good. No, there is no interop issues whatsoever between V1s and V2s. You know why? Because those switches are standalone switches, and they, work with the IEEE standards and the same RFCs. So standalone switch to standalone switch, same language, if I can speak this way. So because of that, there is absolutely no interop issue that we can foresee. That would not be the same story with stackable switches, right? Because when you have a stack, you usually can stack the new ones with the old ones, and that's painful because you got to start new stacks from scratch. Here, that's not the case. V2s and V1s will just go seamless together.
All right, thank you so much for that, Laurent. It doesn't look like we have any more questions for today. Thank you for joining us to learn about our Smart Manage Pro switches today. We will send out a follow-up email this afternoon with the recording and the slides. If you have any questions, feel free to reply to that email or any of our reminder emails, and we'll connect you with an expert shortly. In addition, we will have a feedback survey in our follow-up email where we will be randomly selecting one of our survey respondees to win a wireless access point from our Smart Cloud Management product line Insight. Keep an eye out for that email, and if you're calling in, just reply to one of the reminder emails and I'll be sure to send you that survey. Our next webinar is on June 26th at 11 a.m. to see the new update we have for Insight, our remote cloud management app. Be sure to check out our webinar schedule on the Partner PowerShift portal or on any of our social channels and website. All right, everyone, thank you so much and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.